Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is Tuesday the 26th of November. Today we'll start with three stocks. We'll start with Apple. Three stocks that have some interesting technical developments or technical picture is that we have Apple here that that closed higher, just 1% yesterday. But what is interesting is that it is still above the daily cloud here on the daily. We can see the daily chart here. The RSI is about to break back above 60 threshold. If it closes a little bit higher today, then I think it will close above 60 threshold, meaning it will confirm a bullish trend that it is building up here over the past week or so, and could push higher. And if it does that, I think it will take out the previous all-time highs here at 237.25, a little bit 237.5. In the coming weeks. It will be also worth to note that if it breaks above its falling trend line here on the weekly RSI, then I think we'll see higher levels on Apple. To demolish this picture, a close below 219.70 is required. Moving on to Nvidia, which has been struggling since its earnings announcement, that maybe disappointed a little bit. We can see it. That was the day after the earnings announcement there on the 21st of November. A lot of volatility, but didn't really move much. Now it's moved back below this rising trend line here, and had a sell-off yesterday 4% lower when the overall market was a little bit positive. It could test this support area here, 131.60, 128.74. If it breaks back below that, well, then we could be in for some more trouble on Nvidia. We can also see here on the weekly chart, we have massive divergence on the RSI on the weekly, but also on the daily. That spike up there last week is not very good signal for Nvidia either. So I think it will test this support here, and if it takes it out, well, then we are looking at 113, possibly lower. So it seems like for now the party is over in Nvidia. If it's can get back above the peak there on the 21st at 152.90, well, then the bullish trend is back in motion, but it doesn't really seem to be like that at the moment. Tesla also could be over for now, at least. Formed a bearish engulfing yesterday, taking out this candle here and the body candle, and we have divergence on the RSI. You can see the values are declining, indicating uptrend exhaustion. We will have a little bit of support at the lows there, right here. That was the wrong one I selected. Sorry about that. Let's just pick it again. This is the one I should have taken. Here we are. If it takes out 309.20, well, then more trouble for ahead for Tesla. But I think we will see a further selling pressure in the coming days. If it also closes around current levels or lower on this week, we also have a bearish engulfing in place on the weekly chart. However, there's positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI. Could drag a little bit on the in the other direction, but for now it seems like toppish for Tesla. On S&P 500, spiked higher above 6,000 yesterday to new all-time highs, but didn't get a higher close. We are still in a bullish trend, but it seems a little bit stressed at the moment. I think we will push higher, but again, this is the gap area that should be observed. If it does close that, well, then we have a completely new situation. But for now, it looks fairly positive. We are indicated 0.25% lower at the pre-market, but it can easily change. You can see there on the future, it didn't spike to new all-time high, just receded just a little bit below. Nasdaq 100. Well, it actually opened above the gap area here, but closed below, which is not a good sign. But the key gap area is down to 20,227. We don't want to see that being closed. Then we can see more selling pressure if that plays out. So a little bit up in the air, and of course it is Nvidia weighing on on Nasdaq, obviously, and also Tesla weighing on Nasdaq. They are big constituents in this index. So that Nasdaq, I think, will struggle a little bit in the coming times here, in coming days and weeks. So that could be a little bit of a struggle. On the other hand, Dow Jones index, new all-time high. Looking at 45,000, I think it will be reached. It seems like the old school economy companies, so to speak, are coming back. We are banks higher. We are some energy companies higher. So really, really strong move there on Dow Jones. 45,000, I think it will be reached. We are indicated slightly unchanged this morning, but positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI, likely to move higher. And finally, on the small caps, also spiked to new all-time high yesterday, but didn't close that much higher. But it is in a positive sentiment, and we are in a bullish trend, but I think we could slide back a little bit if it does close this gap here down to 238. Here is the ETF for the Russell 2000. Well, then we could see a correction lower, but for now we are in a bullish trend. And if we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see here that was the previous all-time highs there. It's just spiked above it. It could be a short-term exhaustive move. There's a little bit divergence there on the RSI. On the European markets, we have EUROSTOXX 50. Well, it closed just below 4,800, a little bit of bad sign, and we also indicated about 0.5% lower here in the opening today. We can see it here on the EU50 CFD / the future. We are actually opening lower. Didn't get back above 4,800. Well, it got back above 4,800, but closed it back below here also. So I think we will see a downwards pressure. So it is really frustrating, the European markets at the moment. It kind of can't make up, okay, will you bounce strongly or will you just continue lower? So I will stay on the sideline a little bit, wait for a close below 4,700 on Euro 50. The DAX index, well, 19,000 as we talked about yesterday, has been holding on for quite some time, spiked below a couple of times, and we are actually above the cloud. We are above the 55 moving average. RSI is still positive despite showing divergence. So I think it can crawl slowly higher in the coming days, despite the fact that here just around the opening we are a little bit lower, but again, key support is 19,000. On the Amsterdam index, well, excuse me, closed above 878, also again yesterday, but here pre-market is indicated a little bit lower, and I think we could be caught testing the 870 here today. If it takes out the spike up yesterday, well, then there's potential up to around 890. CAC index couldn't get back above 73.41, which was key, and it also closed below 7,300, and here around the opening it is also indicated lower at 7,200 and could slide lower towards 7,100 in coming days. So 7,300 7,333 seems to be the key resistance there, and the Swiss market also struggling to get back above 11,750. Euro dollar bounced just above 105 yesterday, but closed just below it, testing it again this morning. Didn't get all the way up to the 786, which trades at 105.50. I think we could be caught range bound here, and you also have to remember the trend is down. The RSI is pointing lower. There is no divergence here, as we can see. Is there? It's maybe slightly No, there's no divergence there. So it is up in the air at the moment. It needs to get back above 106.10 to establish a more stronger bullish correction higher. And I think that will be a little bit of a struggle, but keep an eye on these levels there. If it starts taking out the lows from today, well, then we can see it push lower towards previous lows here and also towards 102.40. On cable, sterling dollar, it is can't really get its act together and get back above this little bit of resistance here at 126.12. If it does, well, then expect a correction up to around 127, but we are also in a downtrend. If it takes out the lows here, well, then there's a push lower. And if we're looking at weekly chart, we can see a little bit where we are headed. That we are headed towards the 122.5. These lows here back from earlier this year in Q2. We are below the cloud at the moment on the weekly also, and below the 100 moving average. I think we'll see sterling dollar pushing lower in the on the medium term, but short term there should be a little bit of a correction towards 127. Euro sterling. Euro sterling caught in this range between 83.75 and 82.60. That's the range to break out of for direction. Dollar yen is not doing much. 153.25 still the key support here for a sell-off down to 151 area where we have some support, and also 149.40. We have the 55 coming up giving some support. 200 will also give some support, but it seems like we are in a stressed trend. Really, we have the RSI divergence indicating uptrend exhaustion, but if it takes out 156.75, there's a potential higher towards 160 maybe. The euro yen, well, still in this bearish corrective trend here. We are in a negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating lower levels, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the 159.55, the 61.8 retracement being tested, possibly down to 158.5 in this range area here. However, with the 55 is trying to drag it up a little bit, but the 100 is pushing lower, so I think we'll move lower in the coming days and weeks. The Aussie yen still caught range but tested the 99 key support here early this morning. If it takes it out, well, then expect a drop to 98, possibly lower. But if it can hold on, well, then there is still a little bit of possibility to go higher. But I think we will push lower. We can see the 100 moving average is also declining there. The sterling yen below the 193.70 support, testing the lower falling trend line is not really strong, and we are currently RSI below 40 threshold, indicating likely lower levels, and I think we'll see further selling pressure towards the 190. That is really key strong support down here around 190. For sterling yen to reverse the trend, it should bounce from here and test the upper falling trend line, but it doesn't really seem like it at the moment. We have a lot of strong overhead resistance with all the moving averages at 255 and the 100 giving it pressure to the downside. Aussie yen spiked just below the 64.40 support here and the lows. But got bounced really strong. If it takes out the 65.50 to the upside, well, we could see a bounce up to around 66.40, maybe 66.50. If it takes out the lows here again, the lows from today, expect to sell off down to 63.60. Dollar Canada. A very strong bounce early this morning, pushing higher above the previous peak here to the 138.2 projection at 141. If we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see where we are headed, and we need to zoom out really quite a bit. We are actually back to the levels around 144, 145, maybe even 146. Very strong uptrend indeed for now. If it can hold itself above 141, about that 141, that if it can hold it above that, then it seems very strong, but a very strong momentum up there, and only a little bit of correction we had there that also indicate that. Also a strong bounce in sterling Canada. We talked about the other that it was likely to do that after getting back above the 200 moving average, bouncing towards the 786 retracement at 177.60. I think it will release. We could see a bounce up to maybe 178 or just below 178.30. That was previously the key support, but for now it is just bouncing strongly. The negative sentiment still, but it's a very strong bounce. I think we could get up at least to this level here. On the Swiss franc, well, after spiking higher to the 61.8 and testing this trend line here, it has been rejected and back below 93, and I think we could see it slide lower in the coming days and weeks. We are in a confirmed bearish trend. Could spike lower to previous lows and possibly also take it out in coming weeks. I think it will take out the lows there at 92. Dollar Swiss, here it is. Dollar Swiss spiked higher and then collapsed just about 89 and a quarter, and maybe it's and I draw these two trend lines here, so maybe it is forming a rising wedge-like pattern, but I will keep an eye on the lows from about a week ago here at 88. If it takes out that expected sell-off down to below 87, 88 and a half area, but let's see that when it starts to do that. If it moves back above 89 and a quarter, then I think we'll see a push up to 90. But it's really frustrating at the moment. However, you should consider, well, we are in an uptrend, higher highs, but there's also divergence on the RSI. I can see lower RSI levels, so it is indicating a little bit of trend exhaustion, but for now I'm a little bit unsure what is the direction actually. I need some confirmation. I need it back above 89 and a quarter for that. The dollar index also in uptrend exhaustion mode after spiking above 108, but key support 106. If it takes out that, expect a correction lower. And what we can do just very quickly, we can add a Fibonacci retracement and see, okay, if it takes out that, well, then we're looking at 105, possibly lower. However, we are in a bullish trend despite some divergence. We are in a bullish trend. If it takes out 108, once again, expect much higher levels on dollar index. Gold got rejected, well, it actually spiked just above the 2708 resistance, but then it got really hammered, and now it's trading around the 61.8 retracement of this strong move here at 2607. I think it will bounce once again. Could bounce up towards 2650, maybe a little bit higher in this region around here, but will it actually move higher? That is the key question. I think it could be frustrating for a little while. If it takes out 2600, then expect it to push back to 2576, which is the 786 retracement, possibly back down to the 2546. What we could do, and you can also do that on your charts, you can add a Fibonacci retracement here. I need to adjust that a little bit. Sorry, let's see. Just adjust it right there. And we see, okay, it could bounce back up to maybe the 61.8 here at 2677. But if it doesn't get all the way up there, well, then expect it to move lower. If it gets back below the cloud, then we have a bearish situation for silver that could, for gold that could push it lower. Silver, moving on to silver, I was also mentally moving on to silver. Couldn't get above 31.53. Couldn't get all the way up to the 38.2 retracement, which is really a negative sign. The downtrend could be resuming. Negative sentiment still on the RSI. If it takes out 29.65 here, then we could see a push down to around 29. It really needs to take out these peaks here around 31.55. And copper. Well, copper in this range trading behavior here between 400 and 418, just below that. It really needs to break out. It needs to take out that 419 for potential up to 430. On the energy side, well, we still off in WTI crude oil yesterday, so we're still caught range bound here between 66.72 and 72.80. That is the range. We are slightly bearish, but keep an eye on that range. The same with the Brent crude oil. Obviously, also caught in this range 72 spot 72 and 76 spot 32. The Dutch TTF gas seems like it's really struggling to push higher, and we need to look at the weekly chart to see what's actually going on. You can see we talked about it for such a long time. We are still in a rising trend medium term, but we are struggling. But it seems like it's clustering week by week and then pushing higher a little bit. There is potential up to 55, 56 level. And Henry Hub, US natural gas, also stalling a little bit here short term, just below the 364 peak area here, back from same time last year, really. But we are in a very strong bullish trend, higher highs and higher lows and higher highs, and the RSI is also pointing to higher levels on the nat gas. On the interest rates yields here, we have the US 10-year Treasury yields after being rejected just below 450 key resistance. It has very close to test the 425 opening just at 426 this morning. This is a key support. If it takes out that expected drop down to around 450, maybe a little bit lower, which is the 38.2 retracement here. I wouldn't be surprised if that plays out, but keep an eye on 425 on the US 10. The 2-year the 2-year could also be in a correction mode here. 422 is support. If it takes out that, we could see a correction down to around, there's no support until around 406 in this region here, around 406, 402. It is fairly stretched at the moment, so keep an eye on 422. On the EuroBund, EuroBund future that yesterday moved back above 133.16, minor resistance. I think we'll remove it because it's not that strong, but the key up here is 134.25. That would keep it. Could be tested. We are in the positive sentiment on the RSI, so it could push higher, but I think it could also be rejected up there. And finally, on the UK gilts, also strong bounce up to resistance at 95.36, got rejected. So it really needs to get back above that for a further upside potential. In the bigger picture, it is still in a downtrend, but short term, it is in a bullish corrective phase. On cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, it didn't get all the way up to 100,000, just below it here yesterday. This is the weekly chart. Just to give you an indication, if we switch to the daily chart, we can see maybe a little bit better what's going on here. It just peaked above it's very close to just 99,860, and the selling pressure there's really some profit taking coming in. Ethereum struggling to get above 3,600. That is the key area here, just below here. That is key to keep an eye on for Ethereum to push higher. So for now, we're also a little bit weak there. All right, that's all for today. Talk to you again later. Have a nice day.